The last copy of the documentary hit the internet at 3:07 a.m. on a Tuesday in March, 5 years to the day after the hearing. I watched it on my phone in a truck stop lot outside Bemidji, exhaust fogging the windshield, coffee gone cold hours ago. The final frame, Vance setting the photo of his grandmother back on the desk, faded to black, then to white text. She never took the test. I closed the laptop, stepped into the cold, and walked to the edge of the lot where the snow was still clean. I held the last thumb drive over the white, tiny rectangle full of marriages, wire transfers, perjuries, oaths broken like twigs underfoot. I let it fall. The snow closed over it without a sound. Somewhere south of here, a woman in federal khaki wakes to the same question every morning. One she can't filibuster, can't fundraise away, can't spin into victimhood. It's whispered by cellmates, shouted by headlines, scratched into the paint of the rec yard wall. Have you taken the DNA test? She never answers. She doesn't have to anymore. The curve on the graph already spoke. 99.6% sibling, 100% accountability, 0 places left to hide. The republic keeps rolling, cornfields to cornfields, indictment to indictment, simple question to simple question. And every time a new candidate files, a new staffer whispers, "Don't pull an Omar." The country lawyer's drawl echoes off marble walls. "Swab or stagger, ma'am? Truth don't care about your talking points." I stick out my thumb. A semi hauling Christmas trees slows, air brakes sighing like an old man settling into a chair. The driver, beard iced over, Vietnam vet patch on his coat, nods at the empty highway. "Where to, We're witness?" "Next county? Next question?" I say. He grins, shifts into gear. "Climb in. We got miles of receipts to deliver." The truck rolls east, tires spitting slush, Springsteen crackling through static. From the town of Lincoln, Nebraska, with a sawed-off 410 on my lap. I close my eyes, recorder warm in my pocket, laptop dead but still humming with the only sentence that ever mattered. Some people did something, and the truth patiently waited for them to finish. The Bentley's still rusting, keys on a federal hook, meter frozen. The questions still rolling, riverbend to riverbend, witness to witness. And the Republic, battered, broke, but breathing, keeps asking, keeps walking, keeps writing the next page in indelible ink. Have you taken the DNA test? Check yes or no. The box is still waiting. The truck dropped me at a crossroads that didn't have a name. Just 2 stop signs leaning like old drunks, and a flashing yellow light that hadn't blinked since Clinton's first term. I kept walking, boots crunching on gravel that turned to frost-rimmed dirt. Thumb drive gone, but the question still riding shotgun in my skull. Have you taken the DNA test? It kept time with my heartbeat. 6 syllables, 60 steps, 6 more miles until the next town, the next printer, the next box of flyers that weighed less than the truth, but cost more than most folks make in a week. The sky was the color of a worn-out dime, sun a bare bulb flickering behind cloud filth. I passed a cornfield stubbled with last year's stalks, each one snapped at the knee like it had been interrogated. A scarecrow hung from a post, burlap face painted with a wide red grin. Someone had taped a cotton swab to its straw hand and scrawled across the chest in black marker. "Swab or stagger, ma'am?" The wind made the swab twitch, like it was waving goodbye to a ghost that never quite left. Somewhere behind me, the prison at Waseca released its morning shift of guards. Cars filing out like ants leaving a dead carcass. I wondered if Omar was awake yet, if she heard the same wind I did. if the question whispered through the cinder block walls and slipped between the bars. Have you taken the DNA test? They say time grinds slow in federal custody, days measured in commissary coffee and count time bells. But the curve on the graph is patient, mathematical, eternal. 99.6 doesn't sleep, doesn't plea bargain, doesn't care about your feelings or your fundraising goals. I hit a town that wasn't much more than a gas pump and a grain elevator, the kind of place where the welcome sign lists the population and then adds Plaus, because the census can't keep up with funerals and foreclosures. Inside the diner, the radio played low, NPR, voice smooth as courtroom marble, reciting the latest. Omar legal team files final appeal, cites biological colonialism and genetic privacy rights. The waitress, name-tagged Darlene, hair the color of rusted barbed wire, poured coffee black as an indictment and asked if I wanted cream. I told her no. I like it, like I like my evidence. Bitter, bare, undeniable. She nodded toward the window. See the scarecrow out on 42? Kids keep dressing it up. Yesterday they gave it a Yale sweatshirt and a little briefcase. Day before, a string of pearls. She wiped the counter with a rag that had seen better decades. Folks are tired of being told their stories are fake, while the folks telling him can't even tell the truth about who they married. I paid in crumpled ones, left a flyer under the sugar caddy, DNA timeline, FEC receipts, the oath she took, and the oath she broke. Darlene tucked it into her apron without reading it. I'll hang it by the register. Regulars like a good mystery, long as it ends with somebody doing time. Back on the road, the wind picked up, carrying the scent of diesel and distant snow. A semi blew past, trailer painted with an American flag so big it flapped even at 70 miles an. The driver leaned on the horn. 2 short blasts, Morse for keep walking. I saluted with the hand that still held the pen, ink frozen in the cartridge, but the tip still sharp enough to carve initials into a lie. Mile after mile, the question kept pace. A shadow that didn't need sunlight. Have you taken the DNA test? It showed up in graffiti on overpasses, in the comments section of obituaries, in the silence between campaign ads. It was written in the language of every immigrant who learned English by reading the Constitution. Every grandma who pressed a naturalization certificate into a grandchild's hand and said, "This is your home now. Guard it." I crossed the state line at dusk, Minnesota behind me, Wisconsin ahead, the river frozen solid enough to walk on if you trusted the ice to hold your weight. I didn't. I kept to the shoulder, thumb out, heart hammering the same 6-word cadence. A pickup slowed, Wisconsin plates, bumper sticker reading, "My oath doesn't expire." The driver, beard gone gray, eyes younger than his face, leaned across the cab. Heading east? Heading honest, I said. He laughed, reached over, popped the door. Climb in. I got a heater that works, and a radio that don't. We'll make good time. We drove through the dark, headlights carving tunnels in the snow, the question riding shotgun between us like a silent third passenger. Finally, he spoke, voice low, almost prayerful. My kid asked me what patriotism looks like. I showed him the clip. Country lawyer. Simple question. No place to hide. Told him truth ain't red or blue, it's just true. Kid swabbed his cheek for 23andMe last week. Said, if I ever run for anything, I'm starting with the facts. I nodded, throat tight. That's how the Republic survives. One swab, one honest answer, one kid who decides his word's worth more than his wallet. We rolled on, past farms and feed stores and town halls with flags at half-mast for reasons no one remembers anymore. Somewhere behind us, the prison lights flicked on, casting long shadows across the snow. Bars of light that look like the lines on a DNA gel. Every band, a verdict you can't appeal. The trucker dropped me at a truck stop that advertised the best coffee in 3 counties. I didn't test the claim. I was after something stronger. Ink, paper, a copier that doesn't ask questions. Inside, the machine hummed like a distant generator, spitting out pages. Marriage licenses, tax returns, wire transfers, the oath she took and the oath she broke. I stuffed them into a box labeled Veterans for Truth, free copy, take one. By morning, half were gone, replaced by receipts for coffee and gas, and a couple of crumpled dollars that smell like honest work. I walked out before sunrise, thumb out, heart still hammering the only sentence that matters. Have you taken the DNA test? The wind answered, soft and steady, like a country lawyer waiting for the witness to realize the only exit is the truth. And the Bentley? Still rusting, still waiting, keys on a federal hook, meter frozen at a number that no longer matters, because the debt is paid, the question is answered. And the Republic, battered, broke, but breathing out a meaning, keeps walking, keeps asking, keeps writing the next page in ink that doesn't wash off. Have you taken the DNA test? Check yes or no. The box is still waiting. And so am I. The road finally ended where the asphalt surrendered to Lake Superior. Black water chewing at a break wall of broken concrete. Gulls screaming like faulty brakes. I dropped my pack on the beach, recorder cold against my ribs, and watched the horizon try to erase itself between sky and lake. Somewhere out there, past the oar boats and the ghost of Edmund Fitzgerald, the question kept riding the waves. Have you taken the DNA test? It echoed off the hulls, off the ice floes, off the iron in the red rock cliffs. 6 words older than the country that birthed them. I built a fire from driftwood and copies of the last flyer. Pages curling, ink blistering, truth turning to heat and light. A fisherman appeared, beard glazed with lake spray, eyes the color of storm glass. He didn't ask my name, just nodded at the flames and said, "You here for the ceremony?" I asked, "What ceremony?" He pointed toward the east break wall where a small crowd had gathered. Maybe 40 people, maybe 50, flags in their hands but no drums, no slogans, just the hush of people waiting for a verdict that already came down. They were there for the unveiling, not of a statue, but of a bench. Plain cedar, backrest carved with a single sentence. The truth patiently waited for them to finish. No name, no date, no government seal. Just that line, and a small brass plate screwed into the armrest. Swab or stagger? Choose. The fisherman explained. Local vets paid for it. Welders paid for the plate. The city paid for nothing. They wanted a place where anyone could sit and remember that simple questions still beat complicated lies every time. I sat. The lake wind cut through my coat like cross-examination. A kid, maybe 12, maybe 13, sat beside me. Hoodie drawn tight, breath fogging. He pulled a cotton swab from his pocket, held it like a candle. My civics teacher gave us these, said if you ever run for anything, start here. He stuck it in his mouth, counted to 10, sealed it in a plastic tube labeled Future Candidate, DNA Verified. Then he looked at me, eyes clear, voice steady. I'm American first. The rest is ancestry. Behind us, the crowd began to disperse. No speeches, no cameras, just the soft scrape of boots on snow. The fisherman stayed, staring at the flames I'd made from the last of the flyers. "She ever gonna answer?" he asked. I shook my head. "Doesn't matter. The curve already did." He nodded, spat into the fire, watched the sizzle. "Then this bench'll do just fine." I left at dusk, thumb out again, heading north, because north is where the questions get colder and the answers get clearer. A semi slowed. Wyoming plates, cab smelling of coffee and gun oil. The driver, woman, late 50s, silver hair in a braid thick as mooring line, leaned across the seat. "You the witness?" I nodded. She jerked her thumb toward the back. "Got a box for you. VFW Ladies Auxiliary, Cheyenne." They printed 10,000 more. Said to drop 'em off anywhere the truth's been waiting. I climbed in. The box was taped shut, address label blank, except for 6 words stamped in red. "Have you taken the DNA test?" We drove through the night. Headlights carving tunnels in the snow. The lake disappearing behind us like a closed file. Somewhere past Duluth, the radio crackled. AM static. Then a voice I recognized. Country lawyer. Louisiana drawl. Testimony from the past playing on a late-night call-in show. A caller asked if he had any regrets. He laughed, soft, steady, unhurried. "Regrets? Son, I just asked a question." The answer did all the work. The driver turned the volume up, nodded along. "That question's gonna outlive us all," she said. "It's in the soil now. Like lead. Like lime, like the iron in these lakes. You can't dig it out, can't filter it, can't plead the fifth against gravity." She tapped the wheel in time with the syllables, "Have you taken the DNA test?" 6 beats, 6 decades, 6 million miles of asphalt left to crumble under the same simple ask. We rolled on, past towns that don't show up on maps anymore, past barns with swab or stagger painted in barn door letters big enough to read from space. At every stop, the box got lighter, flyers disappearing into glove boxes, into apron pockets, into the hands of kids who'll grow up believing that citizenship starts with a cotton swab and ends with a straight answer. I got out at the Montana line, sunrise bleeding over the prairie like a redacted document finally unsealed. The driver handed me the last flyer from the box, already curling at the edges. "Plant this somewhere dry," she said. "Truth don't grow in shade." I watched her disappear into the distance, tail lights winking out like the final period on a sentence that refuses to end. I walked until the road turned to gravel, then to dirt, then to nothing but prairie and sky. I planted the flyer under a rock the size of a heart, weighted it down with the thumb drive that used to hold 31 pages and now holds only 1 line. The truth patiently waited for them to finish. Then I kept walking, thumb out, heart hammering the same 6-word cadence that will outrun every campaign, every appeal, every attempt to rebrand perjury as progress. "Have you taken the DNA test? Check yes or no." The box is still waiting. And so is the Republic. Battered, broke, but breathing. Walking north into the wind, asking, asking, asking. Until the only answer left is the one that can't be forged, can't be spun, can't be filed away in a sealed folder. Yes, no, the truth. I walked until the prairie gave up and dropped into a coulee where the wind couldn't find me. Night came down like a grand jury seal. Cold, absolute, no moon to appeal to. I built a small fire, more for company than heat, and fed it the last flyers, page by page. The paper curled, letters lifting like black moths. "Have you taken?" before crumbling into red lace. When the final scrap floated off, I saw what was left. A single cotton swab, half charred, the cotton still white at the tip, like a flag that refuses to burn. I stuck it in my pocket. Evidence doesn't die. It just changes form. Somewhere beyond the coulee, a freight train moaned, steel dragging steel across the dark, the same 6-word cadence in every wheel clack. Have you taken the DNA test? I climbed the embankment, stuck out my thumb, felt the rush of displaced air as the train thundered past. Boxcars flickered under the moonless sky, one painted with a giant helix, spray stenciled in railroad red. 99.6%, still waiting. I ran alongside, grabbed the ladder, swung up. The car was empty except for hay bales and the smell of diesel and decades. I sat between 2 bales, recorder warm against my ribs, and let the rails carry me east, toward the next county, the next printer, the next box of flyers that weighed less than the truth, but cost more than most folks make in a month. The train slowed outside a town that didn't exist on Google Maps, just a grain elevator, a church, and a bar with a neon sign that buzzed like a dying fly. I hopped off, boots hitting gravel hard enough to rattle my teeth. The bar was called the Swab and Stagger, named, the bartender said, the week after the hearing. She poured me coffee thick as motor oil and pointed to the wall. A framed copy of Kennedy's Question, signed by regulars who'd driven to St. Paul to watch the whole thing live. Underneath, in Sharpie. We take our answers straight. No chaser, no spin, no plea bargain. I asked if she had a copier. She lifted the bar, old school, wood and brass, and revealed a laser printer humming like a satisfied cat. Run what you got. Paper's cheap, truth's cheaper. I printed 1 page, just the curve, just the number, just the question. She taped it to the mirror behind the bar, next to the sign that read, "Free coffee if you can look yourself in the eye." I kept walking. Somewhere in South Dakota, I crossed paths with a kid, 19, maybe 20, hitching west with a backpack and a cardboard sign that read, "American First, Somali Always, DNA Verified." He showed me his tube, sealed and labeled, already mailed to 23andMe. "If I ever run for dog catcher, I start clean," he said. "Grandma says oath is halal only if it's whole." We walked together until the highway split. Then he headed west, me east, both of us carrying the same 6-word heartbeat. Months later, I hit the coast. Atlantic, gray and endless, water chewing at the rocks like a question that won't quit. I stood on the breakwall, wind tasting of salt and diesel, and pulled the half-charred swab from my pocket. I held it over the water, let the wind threaten to take it, then pulled it back. Evidence doesn't drown, it just changes form. I stuck it in a bottle, old glass, green as prison walls, corked it, scrawled the question on the side in waterproof marker. I hurled it as far as I could. It disappeared into a wave, swallowed whole, the ocean doing what oceans do. Keep secrets, keep moving, keep asking. And the Bentley? Still rusting, still waiting, keys on a federal hook, meter frozen at a number that no longer matters, because the debt is paid, the question is answered, and the Republic, battered, broke, but breathing, keeps rolling, keeps walking, keeps asking the only question that ever mattered. Have you taken the DNA test? Check yes or no. The box is still waiting. The bottle is still floating. And so am I. Thumb out, heart hammering, walking into the wind that never stops asking until the only answer left is the one that can't be forged, can't be spun, can't be filed away in a sealed folder. Yes, No, the truth. The bottle rode the Gulf Stream like a subpoena no one could dodge. Salt-fogged, sun-bleached, cork swollen tight as a sealed indictment. I watched it go from the deck of a freighter outbound from Norfolk. Recorder in my pocket. Thumb drive gone, but the question still riding my pulse. Have you taken the DNA test? The crew didn't ask why I was chucking glass into the Atlantic. They just nodded, like sailors who've seen offerings darker than wine. Months later, maybe a year, maybe a lifetime, the bottle washed up on a beach that doesn't exist on maps anymore. Sand the color of bone, palms bent like old jurors, tide humming the same six-word cadence. A kid found it, barefoot, skin the color of wet mahogany, eyes like the first time you realize adults can lie. He cracked the cork, read the marker, didn't flinch. He'd never heard of Ilhan Omar, never seen a Bentley rusting in a federal lot, never watched a country lawyer gut a myth with a single folder. But he knew the shape of a question that refuses to die. He tucked the swab behind his ear like a flower and started walking. He walked until the sand turned to lava rock, until the lava turned to highway, until the highway turned to a city where neon spells out promises in languages that don't translate to loyalty. He slept in bus stations, worked kitchens, where the grease pops like cross-examination, sent half his pay home in envelopes addressed simply, family. Every Friday, he bought one cotton swab, one stamp, one envelope. Every Friday, he mailed his own answer to a question no one had asked him yet. Yes, American first, always. Somewhere in the middle of that city, a printing press ran all night, flyers rolling off like ammunition belts, each page the same 6 words in 42 languages. Have you taken the DNA test? No logo, no pack, no return address. Just the curve, the number, the box waiting to be checked. The kid stacked them in his backpack like kindling, handed them out at subway entrances, tucked them into menus, slipped them into the pockets of suits who thought power meant never having to spit in a cup. The suits started sweating. One by one, quietly, then not, they took the test. Senators, councilmen, talk show hosts, influencers who'd built brands on ambiguity. The results hit like midnight leaks, 23andMe uploads, Ancestry.com confirmations, PDFs that couldn't be spun. Some were clean, some weren't. Some found brothers they'd never met, fathers they'd never claimed, loyalties they'd sworn away in languages they thought died with their grandparents. The ones who came back dirty didn't face prison. They faced something worse. The mirror. The box, the check mark that can't be unchecked. And the Bentley? Still rusting, still waiting. But the keys are gone. Melted down into 100,000 cufflinks. Each one engraved with the same 6 words. Each one handed to the next candidate who thinks paperwork is just paper until the paper becomes prison walls. The meters stopped, but the question keeps ticking. Heartbeat of a nation that finally learned to ask before it believes. I kept walking, thumb out, recorder warm. Fireflies of truth blinking on every horizon. I passed through towns that renamed themselves Swab City, DNAville. Oath honor population growing. I slept in barns where the hay smelled like honesty, in motels where the Bibles had the oath bookmarked in red. I printed more flyers, mailed more swabs, mailed more truth to addresses that don't exist yet, but will, because the Republic is a muscle, and muscles grow when you work them. And the kid? He's somewhere out there still, older, leaner, eyes still, The first time you realize adults can lie, but kids don't have to. He's running for something now. School board, city council, maybe Congress. His announcement video was 30 seconds. Him in a thrift store suit holding a cotton swab like a torch, saying only, "I took the test. I'm American first. The rest is ancestry." The video hits 1 million views before sunrise. The bottle, still floating. Atlantic to Pacific, Pacific to Indian, Indian to Arctic, until every ocean has tasted the same 6-word salt. Have you taken the DNA test? It washes up on shores that don't have names yet, on beaches where languages are born, on sand where kids who've never seen a Bentley or a ballot find a glass bottle, a cotton swab, a question that doesn't need translation. And me? I'm still walking. Thumb out, heart hammering, recorder full of the only sentence that ever mattered. I walk until the road turns to starlight, until starlight turns to dawn, until dawn turns to the next county that hasn't learned to ask yet. I walk because the Republic is a question that refuses to be answered until every last lie is exhausted. Every last excuse is filed away. Every last witness looks in the mirror and says, yes, no, the truth. The box is still waiting. The bottle is still floating. The swab is still white. And so am I. Thumb out, walking into the wind that never stops asking until the only answer left is the one that can't be forged, can't be spun, can't be filed away in a sealed folder. Have you taken the DNA test? Check yes or no. The Republic is still walking. And so am I. I walked until the stars thinned and the sky began to pale, the lake on my left turning from ink to pewter, the road on my right still a ribbon of frost. The trucker had dropped me at the last crossroads before Canada, just a flashing yellow, a shuttered feed store, and a payphone that rang like it remembered every lie ever told into it. I didn't answer. I just kept walking, boots crunching the same 6-word cadence. Have you taken the DNA test? 1 foot, 1 syllable, 1 mile at a time. The wind came off the water with teeth. I pulled the last swab from my pocket, half charred, still white at the tip, and held it like a match that never needed striking. Evidence doesn't die, it just changes form. I stuck it into the frost, stood it upright like a tiny flag no embassy would ever salute. Then I kept walking. Somewhere ahead, maybe 10 miles, maybe 10 years, the border appeared. A cut line through the pines, a post every 100 yards, a sign that still said, "Welcome to the United States," even though the United States had spent the last decade learning to distrust welcomes. I stopped at the line, not to cross, but to listen. The wind carried the question across the cut, across the river, across the miles of prairie that remember every promise ever broken. Have you taken the DNA test? A guard stepped out, young, clean-shaven, patch that read CBP, voice still carrying the last accent you can't fake. Honesty. He didn't ask for papers. He just held up a cotton swab like it was a passport and said, "You want in? You start here." I took it, scraped the inside of my cheek, handed it back. He sealed it, labeled it, dropped it into a tube that disappeared into a machine the size of a lunchbox. The machine beeped. Green light, 1 second, done. He nodded. Welcome home. Don't forget the question. I walked on, past the checkpoint, past the line, past the last echo of the last lie. The road turned to gravel, then to dirt, then to nothing but prairie and sky. I kept walking. I always keep walking. Because the Republic is a question that refuses to be answered until every last lie is exhausted. Every last excuse is filed away. Every last witness looks in the mirror and says, yes, no, the truth. And the Bentley, still rusting, still waiting, but the keys are gone. Melted down into a million cufflinks, a million lapel pins, a million tiny flags that wave every time someone swabs and means it. The meters stopped, but the question keeps ticking, heartbeat of a nation that finally learned to ask before it believes. I walk until the prairie turns to mountain, until the mountain turns to ocean, until the ocean turns to sky. I walk because the Republic is a muscle, and muscles grow when you work them. I walk because the truth is a bone, and bones don't break. They just get stronger. I walk because the question is a covenant, and covenants don't expire. They just get passed on. And the kid? He's somewhere out there still, older, leaner, eyes still the first time you realize adults can lie, but kids don't have to. He's running for something now. School board, city council, maybe Congress. His announcement video is 30 seconds. Him in a thrift store suit, holding a cotton swab like a torch, saying only, I took the test. I'm American first. The rest is ancestry. The video hits 1 million views before sunrise. The bottle, still floating. Atlantic to Pacific, Pacific to Indian, Indian to Arctic, until every ocean has tasted the same 6-word salt. Have you taken the DNA test? It washes up on shores that don't have names yet, on beaches where languages are born, on sand where kids who've never seen a Bentley or a ballot find a glass bottle, a cotton swab, a question that doesn't need translation. And me? I'm still walking, thumb out, heart hammering, recorder full of the only sentence that ever mattered. I walk until the road turns to starlight, until starlight turns to dawn, until dawn turns to the next county that hasn't learned to ask yet. I walk because the Republic is a question that refuses to be answered until every last lie is exhausted, every last excuse is filed away. Every last witness looks in the mirror and says, yes, no, the truth. The box is still waiting. The bottle is still floating. The swab is still white. And so am I, thumb out, walking into the wind that never stops asking until the only answer left is the one that can't be forged, can't be spun, can't be filed away in a sealed folder. Have you taken the DNA test? Check yes or no. The Republic is still walking, and so am I.